people just didn't get their way. Like, that's it. They just didn't get their way and they snapped out. And that's what I mean about the white supremacist side. I mean, you're over that, and that's that John Brown factor. And when you over there doing little shady shit, you a nigger lover, you want to press these issues, they got something for them too. And that's what you saw. Like, I mean, that's just the way I look at it. Like, they didn't win and they snapped out, and we saw it at a heightened level, but the system will always protect that.
Facts. We saw like how they gave them little light ass sentences. That's no different than after the fucking Civil War when they let all these traitors stay. They should have killed them or banished them. The reason why we're going through a lot of this is these are these fucking traitors' kids. And then it's either the traitors' kids or you Ellis Island motherfuckers. Like a lot of these people are these Ellis Island motherfuckers. Like, how are y'all immigrants and y'all got fucking beef? Like, y'all complain about the replacement theory. You are our replacements. They brought you in to replace slaves. So I don't understand how their descendants got their fucking got their undies up to their ass and shit when you guys are the replacements. And I don't care. I don't want to get into this. Just read fucking Black history. Like, read history in general. Like, Frederick Douglass was talking about this shit. Even fucking James Baldwin was talking about like how he was tired of these new immigrants calling him nigga. Like, come on. So, you know, y'all keep talking about the Black and brown ones, but I'm talking about y'all white asses. How is it that y'all are like, you 3 generations in, we're 8, 9, 10 generations in getting fucked over and we not blowing up shit and killing nobody. Y'all barely 3 generations in and you got to burn down the world because you can't figure out how to make it. Like, get the fuck out of here. I get it because your ancestors were failures in your own country, and that's why you had to come here. I'm talking about you white ones. I'm not talking about you people of color, but it goes for you too. But right now we're just talking about the white people, the Irish, all the people that had to like flee their countries, you know, to get some free land in a country that was built by slaves. Why are your grandkids so angry when you motherfuckers were given everything for free that was owed to Black Americans who were the descendants of slaves, and actually not even at that time, who were the actual fucking slaves? Like, I don't understand the beef. Like, I really, really don't. Like, reading that kid's manifesto and him calling us immigrants. How, bitch, you got here after me. That's why when people be like, man, people be telling me to go back to Africa, I'd be so quick to be like, when did your grandmama get here? Where you from? Where your grandma from? When your grandmama get here? Oh, shut the fuck up. Like, Bernie Sanders can't be talking about how we can't get reparations when he's in Ellis, when his people got here after the Ellis Island motherfuckers. Like, you don't get to tell me shit. You don't get to tell me shit. But that's it. I'm sorry, I'm done.
Well, I think that's another thing that like pissed me off about like the news coverage after reading the manifesto is that they didn't really go into like real detail about what the white replacement theory is, I guess. Yeah, they just made it seem like he was a white supremacist that had all this hate in his heart, but they never really broke it down about how like he viewed Black Americans as invaders that need to go back to Africa. Like, they didn't have that discussion. It was just like these, you know, they throw out the xenophobic.
Yeah, they keep trying to push it like he was talking about Mexicans and Latinos, which he was like, yeah, y'all can get it too. But he was like, but these niggas over here, we got to get rid of first.
Yeah, I mean, it was very specific about like us being the invaders, and no one really had a serious conversation about how ridiculous that is, or like have the conversation about how he like you said, he's a new arrival acting as if he has some ownership over this land that we do not, and that like that gives him the right to then go out and murder people. Why don't we have that conversation instead of just saying, white replacement theory is some, like they just do this generic thing is some debunked theory about fertility rates, and that's basically what they say when they describe it. But get into the part about how Black Americans aren't seen as Americans, and how like this whole thing comes down to the idea that we could just be murdered just for being on a land that we've been on for centuries.
That we built all the wealth on. Go ahead, Kelly.
Oh no, I was just co-signing what Mud was saying. I just said thank, because it's so frustrating. I mean, I had so much to say. I even told Sam this earlier. I had so much to say, but it's so much anger. As soon as I heard, like I said, upon getting the breaking news of what was going on, I mean, it was just, I already knew when I heard that, you know, the dude, that the idiot was able to take off his, you know, all his armament and whatever, his bulletproof vest. He was able to lay his gun down. He was able to do all this shit like, you know, Mr. Rogers and Mr. Robinson's Neighborhood or whatever. And he's able to take off all of his stuff and then kneel or whatever, put his hands behind his back. He was able to do all of this. And we got 6-year-olds in kindergarten that get arrested and get roughed up and get taken to jail like they're a mass murderer, you know, for having a tantrum.
Hands behind your back. Give me your hands. Give me your hands.
A lawyer representing 2 Pittsburgh high school students plans to sue the school and police for what they claim is a pattern of abuse targeting Black students. Video of one incident shows a school resource officer putting a student in a headlock before pushing him down and then later using a taser. Vladimir Dutier of our streaming network CBSN has the school's response.
The video, recorded in March 2015, shows Ahmaud Williams waiting in the principal's office after being sent there by a teacher. He's exchanging words with school resource officer Steve Shaulis. Suddenly, Shaulis confronts Williams, putting him in a headlock and eventually dragging him to the hallway. Principal Kevin Murray helps Officer Shaulis hold Williams down while a teen is handcuffed and tasered.
Okay, I've had enough of this. Take your bag off. Take your bag off. You're done. You're done. You're done. You're done. You are done. Get off of me. You're done. What are you doing? You're done. Put your arms behind your back. Put your arms behind your back.
Ow! My arm! Get off me! Ow!
As soon as he asks you.
Arm!
I was just wondering if you were going to send anyone up to him. Yes, I actually had a stroke just
Turn over! Turn over! Do as he asks you. Do not resist! Do not resist! Stop resisting!
Get off me! Ow!
All right. Stop resisting!
Please stop resisting.
Stop resisting! Just stop, man. Stop resisting! Stop! Put your arms behind your back!
Let me get off!
Zach, let's let her stand up. Officer Christensen, you need to allow her to stand up, sir.
Hey, let her try to stand
Officer
up.
Christensen, you need to allow her to stand up.
Stand up! Stand up!
Get off of me!
Stand up!
Get off of me!
Stand up!
Hey,
Get off of
Officer
me!
Christensen, she is not a threat to yourself or others at this moment.
Get
You
off
need
of
to
me!
allow her to stand,
is.
sir.
Get off of me! I can't stand up because you're pushing me! Get off of me!
That's the point of arrest.
I understand that, sir. We are not going to use excessive force to get this done.
We're not excessive.
Yes, it is!
At this
Get
point.
off of me!
Hey,
Leave me alone!
I'm like, what the fuck? I'm just so, I don't know, y'all. It's just not right. It's the last, it should be the last straw. It's the last straw for me, but it is the last straw. I'm, you know, Biden's not talking right. None of our supposed Black elected officials are speaking correctly. You got Ben Crump, like Morgan was saying earlier, that, you know, he's jumping ahead of it. So it's like we beat the drum for what is right for us, and then we get the idiots that want to get in front of it and play the flute so we can get behind them. We're never going to get behind them. And then we get the other side of it where people can basically murder us, and then everybody else's issue gets pushed to the forefront. Because I don't, even though he may have mentioned, I'm talking about the shooter now, he may have mentioned in his his manifesto about other ethnic groups. But now when, say, for instance, Bernie Sanders, first thing he got out there talking about anti-Semitic talk and talking about all the other ethnic groups, they tried to blend it up like this big giant gumbo of issues that need to be addressed, when in actuality, it's Black people that I saw on the ground dead, either, they were kind of blurred out so you couldn't see them or whatever it was, but nonetheless, it was Black folks. So why aren't they not, well, I already know why, but the fact that they are not speaking to that, the fact that they're not speaking to it directly, because just recently they just passed a domestic terrorism bill a couple of days ago, I think on Wednesday, which still does not speak. It was in lieu of what happened at the Buffalo massacre, but it still doesn't even speak to Black people. They're going to put money towards some kind of fucking task force that's going to start to supposedly go after domestic terrorists. But the thing is, they have to be declared a terrorist before you can even go after them. So what the fuck are they doing? It's ridiculous. I'm sick of it.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you, when you said what you said, like, I mean, why do you guys think the approach has been so vague around the conversation of the specificity of the people, and then like what he claimed, us like being illegitimate and needing to go back? Because I think that it's all based on the lineage conversation, period.
I think
And
so. I agree with you. Keep going. I'm sorry.
No,
I agree with you.
Yeah, because I was just going to say, once you get into that, where does that take it? And a lot of people are illegitimate to this conversation. I didn't even like the way that his definition of the replacement theory, because it's like, first of all, you aren't being replaced. You're actually your people are adding non-white people to your numbers. That's one thing, but it's very familiar when we have legitimate gripes. And then I don't know. I just think that this is a whole setup right now.
Well, remember in his manifesto, when did he say that he got radicalized? May 2020. What was going on during May 20? Black people started demanding what they were owed, and now it's time to kill us. Again, he didn't go into a people of color community. He didn't go into a mixed race community and shoot up multiple races of people. He went into a Black community that used to be a food desert and killed Black folks. He could have Googled mixed community.
And so, for me, what's different in like the 60s and 70s is where like our people were still held to a standard of accountability. Because if you look at like all these, even though they were problematic, they still had to come back to the community, and there was like, they couldn't do as much dirt as they're doing now. At least, you understand what I'm saying? Like now, it's just like it's like the floodgates are open, and so that's why we can't get anything done, And so I don't. Like I said, like I'm more worried about the reaction from us, the community, seeing what's going on, rather than like trying to define these crazy white people. And the lineage conversation makes a lot of motherfuckers be quiet, and they don't want that.
This is something that the country has been wrestling with in a number of contexts, and now it is in this context as well. The governor just said that white supremacy, this urge for that and this drive for that in some quarters, is the biggest threat facing the country right now. And so we're still waiting to hear exactly what she is going to do. In terms of gun laws, New York State has some of the toughest gun laws in the country. And one law that's been looked at here in this context is a so-called red flag law, which gives a judge the ability to issue a court order barring someone who has mental illness of some degree from owning a gun, and a judge can order a gun taken from someone. So there may be some more details or some tightening, tweaking of that law in this context, because again, there's this question of how did he buy a gun, the suspect, in New York State, given that red flag law.
Yeah, I think my biggest problem with the way all this is framed is the way all this is framed. Like, they keep talking about gun control and, oh, this is a racial attack, and that's not the way I see it. to me, this is an attempted genocide.
Now, the other thing that we've got to come to see now that many of us didn't see too well during the last 10 years, that is that racism is still alive in American society and much more widespread than we realize. And we must see racism for what it is. It is a myth of the superior and the inferior race. It is the false and tragic notion that one particular group, one particular race is responsible for all of the progress, all of the insights, and the total flow of history. And the theory that another group or another race is totally depraved, innately impure, and innately inferior. And in the final analysis, racism is evil because its ultimate logic is genocide. Hitler was a sick and tragic man who carried racism to its logical conclusion. And he ended up leading a nation to the point of killing about 6 million Jews. And this is the tragedy of racism because its ultimate logic is genocide. If one says that I am not good enough to live next door to him, if one says that I am not good enough to eat at a lunch counter, or to have a good, decent job, or to go to school with him, merely because of my race, he is saying consciously or unconsciously that I do not deserve to exist.
Like, he was actively trying to like provoke a race war that ultimately ends in all Black people being murdered in this country because we can't be deported. So like, if someone attempted genocide in the country and all you have to say is, well, we need more gun control, fuck you. Like, you would never allow this to happen to anyone else but Black people. And this has consistently been my problem. Like, a lot of the times, like, this is what ignoring Black issues ultimately gets you. When you can ignore that Black people are being murdered in the streets, when someone decides they want to make a political statement, they just go murder some Black people because they know you're not going to trip. And what do you think the next one's going to do? It's got to be bigger than this, right? Because this didn't get Connor no kind of news coverage for real. So the next one, he's going to have to get at least 100, right? But y'all still want to talk about gun control. Like, we're not going to address the fact that a presidential candidate was talking about how white birth rates are low, and we need to do something about that. For all y'all who was waiting on your Yang bucks, Blacks for Yang, yeah, that was your boy.
Yeah.
For some reason, the Yang gang. For some reason, this Asian man cares about white people's birth rates. Because he know what it takes to be the president in the United States of America. Stop Asian hate, though.
Well, I mean, at some point, I want to see someone on the mainstream really break down how politicians and the media responded to the anti-Asian hate situation, where dude went down into that salon and shot up a bunch of people, versus how they're reacting to this. Because it just,
it's your work, Mud.
Well, I know. I mean, obviously we can, us on the ground are going to do something, but I'm talking about like mainstream, millions of people. Like, it needs to be on some John Oliver,
Jon Stewart. I know y'all producers listen because you robbed us before. There's your work. Come on, say it again. Go ahead and rewind it because I know y'all listening because y'all robbed us.
As the president and I discussed with our AAPI community in a meeting earlier today, whatever the killer's motive, these facts are clear. 6 out of the 8 people killed on Tuesday night were of Asian descent. 7 were women. The shootings took place in businesses owned by Asian Americans. The shootings took place as violent hate crimes and discrimination against Asian Americans has risen dramatically over the last year and more. In fact, over the past year, 3,800 such incidents have been reported, 2 of 3 by women. Everything from physical assaults to verbal accusations. And it's all harmful. And sadly, it's not new. Racism is real in America, and it has always been. Xenophobia is real in America, and always has been. Sexism, too. In the 1860s, as Chinese workers built the Transcontinental Railroad, there were laws on the books in America forbidding them from owning property. In the 1940s, as Japanese American soldiers defended our nation, more than 120,000 Japanese Americans were forced to live in internment camps, an obvious and absolute abuse of their civil and human rights. Asian Americans have been attacked and scapegoated. People who are perceived as Muslim know what it was like to live in our country after 9/11. For the last year, we've had people in positions of incredible power scapegoating Asian Americans, people with the biggest pulpits spreading this kind of hate. Ultimately, this is about who we are as a nation. This is about how we treat people with dignity and respect. Everyone has the right to go to work, to go to school, to walk down the street and be safe, and also the right to be recognized as an American, not as the other, not as them.
It's horrendous. It's horrendous. In our country, we have to recognize that we may very well be experiencing an epidemic of hate towards so many Americans that is wrong. It is taking on a level of violence in the case of what happened in Buffalo, and we've seen it in other places in our country. And we all must speak out against it. The hate against any one of us, we should interpret it as being hate against all of us as a nation. We are a nation that prides ourselves on our diversity as an element of our strength.
Yeah, for real though, like it really needs to be broken down. And also like, I think that the fact that these people are not being monitored all the time really bothers me, when I know like random drug dealers that, motherfuckers that don't even get get up to an ounce of fucking cocaine get fucking monitored by the police. I know Minneapolis put out their report showing that after the George Floyd thing, the local police were monitoring the activists. They were monitoring Black organizations, Black politicians. And that was a situation.
COINTELPRO.
Yeah, and that's just local police doing that shit. That's not even the FBI doing it. That's not a federal organization. That was the Minnesota state government put out a report saying that this is what the fucking local police were doing. And somehow, these white supremacists can set up these whole networks all across the country. And we've been knowing that they exist. We know they got militias.
Online.
Well, we know they got militias. We know they got compounds. We know they got all types of shit going on across this country. And they're allowed to just do that freely. But, motherfucking, I got fucking, $200 worth of crack on me, and I'm talking reckless on the internet, and then I'm scooped up right away. You know what I'm saying?
This morning, chilling new details on how the gunman behind the deadly mass shooting at a Buffalo, New York supermarket plotted his racist rampage.
The individual was here a few months ago, back in early March.
Authorities now confirming 18-year-old Peyton Gendron visited Tops Supermarket 2 months before he shot and killed 10 people in what the FBI calls a racially motivated attack. ABC News obtaining a 589-page document containing the suspect's alleged posts on the site Discord. Authorities say it appears to show how the gunman carefully planned out the massacre, visiting the supermarket on March 8th, where he was questioned by a security guard. The document also included sketches of the supermarket, outlining different aisles he could navigate quickly. The shooter allegedly describing the store as his first location, listing other possible locations to attack nearby. Police say the shooter visited the store again the day before his deadly assault to conduct reconnaissance, then came back Saturday and opened fire.
There's a lot of people dead in here.
Yeah.
This exclusive video capturing the shock and terror in the shooting's aftermath as the gunman was arrested.
Oh my God, he shot so many people in there.
Julie Harwell, seen here falling to the ground, inconsolable. Her partner and 8-year-old daughter were inside. Overnight, her partner telling ABC News he and their daughter London had separated from Julie because they wanted to buy ingredients for a surprise birthday cake.
I took my daughter so she can pick out what cake that we were going to bake for her mother's birthday, try to surprise her.
And then what did you hear?
Well, first you hear the gunshot. I see all the people running, so I just grabbed my daughter, ran in the back.
Lamont and London hiding in a cooler as they recounted to our affiliate WKBW.
I was scared for my mom. I didn't know where she was. I thought she was gone.
They were separated for 20 minutes, which felt like an eternity.
That was the longest wait I've ever had in my life.
While they made it out alive, the gunman killing 10 people. Celestine Cheney, Roberta Drury, Andre McNeil, Catherine Massey, Margus Morrison, Hayward Patterson, Aaron Salter Jr., Geraldine Talley, Ruth Whitfield, and Pearl Young.
So it's just wild to me. Like, at some point, this country is going to have to come to terms with like all of this shit, because it's just baked into on every fucking level. Like the hypocrisy, just the contradictions. I mean, but this is why we need something like reparations, where like it is something massive that rehauls everything. Because doing a small program, doing like an anti-terrorism bill, like it's cool. I get it, and I understand the purpose of it, but it's not going to be enough to like really change this country in the way we need it to change so that this shit stop happening.
That's why reparations is the ultimate struggle to me of my life. Like, because I'm not saying that it fixed everything, but it fixed a lot, and then we can fight like the greater fight. So that's just how I look at reparations, and that's why they're fighting us so much on it. And even this manifesto and the language is sounding like the angle of it, because it's just looking really shady. Like this is an episode of Scandal.
Facts.
President Biden was welcomed here this morning. A lot of people were grateful that he came to Buffalo to personally deliver condolences on behalf of the country. That was important and generally well received, but not by everybody. I was in an area here just a few meters from where we're standing right now, just after he spoke, and a large group of people were loudly talking about how words are one thing, but actions are actually more important, saying that President Biden and the U.S. government hasn't done enough for the Black community. Here's a little bit of what we heard.
The fact that you would come to this community after we just watched on video 10 of our elders get murdered, shot down, and the only thing you came was to ask them to give up their guns. We deserve reparations. We deserve the same thing that they have given every other community.